It's 12 minutes past 10. Ballarat today for Ballarat BMW 1 Davy Duke Drive and Best Employment. Councillor Amy Johnson joins me this morning. Amy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Story in the Courier today, yesterday, rather interested me. It was called, the title being, the headline, Social Media Cause Alarm. And Councillor Amy Johnson expressing alarm at an initiative saying that it had the potential to reduce the voice of individual councillors. And the story behind this is to do with social media clause that the council's looking at, or I suppose would it be maybe perhaps even a policy that the council's looking at to put in place. Is that right?
It's a clause within the Code of Conduct currently suggested. I don't know if it's social media alarm. That might be a bit over the top, but I certainly have a couple of concerns with it. The main concerns that I have with it are some of the suggested wording within it includes that councillors won't be able to discuss other councillors on their social media, employees, volunteers or contractors. So that's really problematic if I'm trying to have a conversation with a resident and they're asking me to follow up on something, and I might say it's sitting with this employee at the moment, or I'll contact this person and get back to you, or this councillor's looking after that, you might want to contact them. It just really ties your hands.
But why would you wouldn't you be contacting the person directly rather than putting it on Twitter or something like that? I mean, we're talking about...
No, not at all. I think that's such very old school thinking. Facebook and social media is such a brilliant way to connect with your community. It's a medium that a lot of people are really comfortable interacting with council via, and other councils in Victoria are moving further and further online. In fact, they're actually slowly getting rid of some of those customer service staff that just sit there and answer phone calls all day, and actually putting people full-time onto social media to interact with residents that way. Because a lot of people now have internet at home, a lot of people have Facebook, and big business is doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but every business does have some sort of a policy in relation to social networking now, though,
but that's in relation to their employees, and councillors aren't employees of council, so I don't see why they should be telling me what I can and can't do on my social media site. For instance, I agree, councillors shouldn't get on there and discuss confidential information. They shouldn't be anything about contracts or anything that's in Section 89. But I don't understand why this is being singled out, because the Code of Conduct says that already, the way that we should behave in the community, the way that we should respect each other and the staff, the things that we have to keep to ourselves and not make public.
I mean, council officers aren't allowed to speak to the media, for example. There's a policy in place that says that.
You go through the media department, and that's so that communications are streamlined there, and I think you can understand why that happens. Streamlined or manipulated, I wonder sometimes. Well, that's your individual point of view. But
no, I didn't. That's also my point of view. I was just merely pointing out a possibility.
Other parts of the clause are that we're not allowed to use inflammatory language or sexual language, which is fair enough. If you've got good manners on Facebook, you're not going to do that anyway. But why should they be telling councillors how to behave on their own? And this covers your personal Facebook account as well, or your personal Twitter or YouTube or whatever you're using.
Well, there's been a few opinions already about this story from yesterday. One, I see in the paper, one opinion today, I have no problem with a councillor using personal social media accounts in whatever they choose. It helps us to learn who they really are. Another person who has made a comment, one particular councillor is incredibly immature and self-absorbed on Twitter. I'm surprised that they would want to bring attention to anything they did on social media.
I wonder who that's directed at, Mike. But I think if people look through my Twitter feed, they'll see that I use it to network with people all over Victoria and Australia, and often give people updates on what council's up to, which is the same as my Facebook page. And I've had some really brilliant conversations on my Facebook with the community about all different issues, from Bridge Mall, the idea of putting traffic through it, around Civic Hall, around lighting around the lake, around the sale yards. People love getting on there and having debates with each other, and they're quite respectful. I just don't see why we need this particular clause included, especially considering there's 23 other councils that we've reviewed. The 23 whose code of conducts we looked at, and there's no mention of social media. It just seems to tie our hands unnecessarily.
Have you talked with other councillors about your concerns? Have you been at loggerhead at other councillors? Have other councillors turned around to you and said, "What are you doing on social networking, saying this and saying that? You shouldn't be"? Has the CEO been having a chat with you as well?
It's never been about me, and it's never been about my social media site at all. I think the other councillors, there's one or two that think
so. There's been nobody over there asking you to toe the line and stop putting stuff on Twitter or anything like that.
But what have I ever put on there that's been inappropriate, Mike?
No, I'm just merely asking the question. This seems to come out of the blue. You've got some real concerns about a particular policy. Do other councils have any concerns about the same policy?
Yeah, certainly. In fact, Joshua Morris, I was just on the phone to him before, and he was continuing to express his concerns about it. He believes that it, as I said before, it ties our hands unnecessarily. The code of conduct already dictates how we should behave in relation to the community, and I think going down to this, so if I'm not allowed to discuss other councillors on social media, why would we be allowed to do it on... It doesn't say anything about not being able to do it in person, on radio, on TV. Why only on social media are we not allowed to do those things?
Well, as I said, it's the same in every business. I mean, I wouldn't know sooner.
But we're not employees. We're not employees. We're councillors.
No, but you're in the public limelight, though, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's our own duty to manage our own accounts and ensure that we're doing the right thing. I would just hate to see something like this reduce the ability of councillors to actually interact with the community via this medium that they are really comfortable interacting with us over. In fact, I get probably 50 to 60% of my contacts now are via social media, which is far more than any of the other councillors. And I don't think that these people would normally ring up. They just contact me because they see me on there, they've got a concern, and I'm happy to follow up with them on it.
If there's a particular thing that's happening, say for example, let's take for example the Civic Hall, because there's been a lot of communication about that over the years, and you said you posted your opinion about what you'd like to see at the Civic Hall. Would that be breaching anything, would that be breaching, your councillor status or anything along those lines?
So it would be, there's a term for it called winky pop. Have you heard of the term winky pop?
No.
That means making a decision before you, it's a bit of a funny word, but it means making a decision before you get into the chamber. So if I said what I would like for the Civic Hall site before I'd listened to the whole community and got in there and debated it in the chamber and listened to the debate, if I made that decision and made it publicly known before I got into the chamber, then that would be wrong. So I wouldn't do that on Facebook.
No, but I'm not talking about you making a decision particularly. I'm talking about people chatting with you and you then putting on Twitter or social network site of some sort, or Facebook if you like, what people have been talking to you about.
Would I do that? Would it be wrong for me to do that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I would never specifically name the resident that it came from. I might say I heard this idea.
But so what I'm trying to understand is, but you'd be prepared to talk about another councillor, for example, on Facebook. I mean, what are sort of things that you'd want to see? I don't read your Twitter site or Facebook, so you'll have to forgive me. But what are sort of the things that you're talking about that you've got concerns about this particular policy coming into play?
I think it's just the inability to. I think it would tie our hands in regard to.
I mean, if you're not going to talk about things to do with the city of Ballarat,
yeah. But if I'm talking about
to be
something,
more transparent, for example,
I'm talking about something on Facebook and I want to mention another councillor, even this would stop me doing that. We don't need to go into
But why would you want to mention another councillor?
Why wouldn't I want to mention another councillor? That's ridiculous. Why aren't I able to refer to another councillor and what they're up to or what they're doing in relation to an issue that I'm discussing on there? Or why, in the rest of the political world, you can go out and say, actually, that person did a really good job, or actually, that person did a really bad job. Yeah. Why are we not allowed to do that? It's like in City of Casey, they had this big debate around whether the mayor should be the spokesperson for the whole council, and the other 10 of them weren't able to go out and talk to the media.
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Shouldn't you've got a spokesperson.
But then that reduces the individual voice of each councillor who are there to represent the community. We don't all agree. If we all agreed, you might as well just have one person. So then the media would only ever be talking to the one person with the one opinion. Of course, the mayor doesn't represent the entire council, and that's what they debated at City of Casey. Yeah, I think you get my point, Mike.
So there's been nobody at council level that's had a chat with you about this at all?
No, I don't quite get where you're going there, but certainly as councillors...
The CEO hasn't sort of said to you at all, be very careful what you put on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that?
No.
Haven't had that discussion at all?
No, Mike.